much, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to support the DUP amendment, which puts the emphasis exactly where the fight against digital IDs must be. The amendment strengthens the motion, and Sinn Féin deep down in would recognise that, but only if they remove their anti-British balaclavas. It doesn't tinker around the edges or ask for a Northern Ireland opt-out. It says plainly that this scheme is wrong, full stop, and it should be scrapped for everyone in every corner of this United Kingdom. This is not a narrow regional issue, nor simply a question of cost. It goes to the very heart of the kind of country we want to live in. It's about freedom. It's about privacy. It's about whether government still knows where its boundaries lie. The motion refers to the potential waste of millions of pounds. But even if this digital ID scheme costs nothing, it would still be wrong. ID cards were tolerated during the war because of the exceptional circumstances of that time. But in peace, the British people rightly tore them up. We have always believed that a free citizen should not have to prove who he or she is in order to live freely in their own country. That belief runs deep in the British character, the conviction that government should serve its people, not watch over them. Happy to give way.
I thank the member for giving way, and he alludes to the British character and not accepting ID, and so we shouldn't. But this debate has been very illuminating for a number of reasons. The member wasn't here, but his colleague was, when we opposed, both the DUP and the TUV opposed vaccine certification. This is very illuminating in the fact that now the Alliance and the SDLP and the UUP have moved position away from digital ID, but also the fact that Sinn Féin have just completely forgotten about the workers from the Republic of Ireland.
Members, next for a minute.
And I thank the member for his intervention, and always happy to give an intervention, even though that those on that side of the House seems to be a common theme both yesterday with Mr Sheehan and those nationalists today who shy away from interventions. Happy to give way.
I would like to remind Mr Frew, who was here at the time, that every time I spoke on the COVID regulations, I said that we did with a very heavy heart as a Liberal Party. So thank you.
A very heavy heart, so that's admission that there's a change in policy by the Alliance Party. So going back to the British character, and indeed a mandatory ID scheme changes that. This is not simply about convenience, it's a database of identities. Once built, it becomes an instrument, one that future governments could use in ways we cannot foresee. And if history and experiences teaches us anything, it is that such tools are rarely left unused. George Orwell wrote in 1984, not as a prophecy, but as a warning to us all. A warning of what happens when the state knows everything about its citizens. No one is suggesting that the UK has become Orwell's dystopia, but when government starts to build the machinery that could make such control possible, even in the name of efficiency, that is precisely when we must stand up and speak out. The amendment recognises that risk. It warns of the misuse of citizens' personal data, and it defends the principle that privacy is not a privilege granted by government, but a right inherent in free men and women. That is a point entirely missing from the original motion, and I think we all know why. The original motion was not motivated by a defence of personal liberty. When has Sinn Féin ever been shown genuine concern for human rights? Their motion is about something else, about advancing a narrow nationalist agenda, about forcing yet more divergence between Northern Ireland and the rest of our United Kingdom. But freedom is not something to be carved up or to be confined by region. If digital ID cards are wrong for Belfast, they are equally wrong for Birmingham. Freedom does not stop at Larne. That is why the amendment calls on the Prime Minister to withdraw these plans entirely. Protect the rights and privacy of every citizen in the United Kingdom. That is not about right or left. It's about a fundamental principle of British identity, that the state's power must always be limited and the individual must always be free. So let this Assembly send a very clear and united message to London, Belfast and to every corner of our United Kingdom. We reject this digital ID scheme. We reject the creeping hand of state intrusion, and mindful of Orwell's warning, we say with quiet resolve, we will not allow our society to drift inch by inch toward a world where movement is logged and every life is watched. We stand today for freedom, and I trust those in this House will all get behind and back the amendment.